Winter 1918. The United States is frozen. Soldiers drill in the bitter cold, preparing to cross an ocean, to fight a war that will decide the fate of the world. But something else has already boarded those ships. Something invisible. A killer that doesn't care about borders, uniforms, or alliances. In the months to come, it will sweep across continents, leaving millions dead in its wake. And the world will almost forget it ever happened, until history refuses to stay silent. A world already exhausted. By 1918, the world was breaking. 4 years of World War I had drained Europe of its youth. Entire regions were reduced to mud-filled trenches. Economies were strained, food was rationed, civilian morale was fragile. When the United States entered the war in 1917, it promised fresh manpower and hope, but it also unknowingly mobilized something else. Camp Funston. The spark. In March 1918, at Camp Funston in Kansas, thousands of American recruits lived in tight quarters, wooden barracks, shared mess halls, communal latrines. Perfect conditions for respiratory transmission. When the first soldiers reported fever and cough, doctors assumed seasonal influenza. At the time, influenza was common and usually mild. What they didn't know was that this strain was different. Within days, hundreds were sick. Within weeks, thousands. But military priorities overrode medical caution. The troops were needed in Europe immediately. Ships departed regardless of infection levels. No one yet understood that troop transports were acting as floating incubators. How war accelerated the pandemic. Modern warfare created ideal conditions for viral spread. Overcrowded trenches, poor sanitation, malnutrition, stress weakened immune systems, massive international troop movements. When American soldiers arrived in France, they were welcomed as saviors. But they carried an invisible passenger. The virus spread along railways, through supply chains, into factories, villages, and hospitals. It infected British, French, German, and American forces alike. Even German General Erich Ludendorff complained that influenza was crippling his troops during critical offensives. Entire units became combat ineffective within days. Yet newspapers remained quiet. Governments feared panic more than disease. Why it was called Spanish flu. The name is misleading. The outbreak did not originate in Spain. However, Spain was neutral during the war. Its press was not censored. When King Alfonso XIII fell ill, Spanish newspapers reported it openly. Meanwhile, warring nations suppressed news to protect morale. As a result, the world assumed Spain was the epicenter. In reality, the virus had already spread widely across Europe and North America. The deadly mutation. The first wave in early 1918 was serious, but not catastrophic. Then, during the summer, the virus mutated. The second wave, beginning around August 1918, was devastating. Unlike typical influenza, which primarily kills the elderly and very young, this strain targeted healthy adults between 20 and 40 years old. Scientists later believed the virus triggered a cytokine storm, an overreaction of the immune system that destroyed lung tissue. Victims would develop extremely high fevers, struggle to breathe, turn blue from oxygen deprivation, die within 24 to 72 hours, hospitals overflowed, coffins ran out. Mass graves were dug in multiple countries, a truly global catastrophe. The pandemic did not stay in Europe or America. Through trade routes and colonial networks, it spread to West Africa, India, China, the Middle East, the Pacific Islands. In some regions, mortality rates were catastrophic. India alone may have lost over 10 million people. Globally, estimates range from 50 to 100 million deaths, more than World War I itself. There were no vaccines, no antiviral drugs, no antibiotics to treat secondary bacterial pneumonia. Public health responses varied. Some cities closed schools and banned gatherings. Others did nothing. Often, war production and troop logistics were considered more important than containment. Why it was almost forgotten. When the war ended in November 1918, the dead from influenza had no monuments like fallen soldiers. There were no medals for surviving disease. Families grieved quietly. Within a generation, the pandemic faded from popular memory until historians began re-examining it decades later. The legacy. The 1918 pandemic reshaped modern public health. It accelerated epidemiology research, strengthened national health systems, inspired future vaccine development, changed how governments handle pandemics. It proved one terrifying truth. In a connected world, disease can move faster than armies, and sometimes the deadliest enemy carries no flag.